Hey, it's the Fish Guy. I'm so excited about some of the places that our work at Something Fishy takes us. Today we're at Hammonasset Beach State Park. Look at this amazing place. What's really cool is we're out here in nature, and this park preserves nature, and we have a project that we did a couple years ago that helps conservation and deliver the message of how important it is to protect and conserve our ocean planet. I can't wait to show it all to you.
Russ, tell me about the space that we're in today. It's really cool.
Well, this is our new Meggs Point Nature Center building, opened 2.5 years ago, and we had a very small rustic building in the past, so this is a big upgrade from that. This is our water room, and the water room is really designed so that you feel like you're underwater. So
yeah,
it's got that boat over your head, the fish tanks on the sides, we got some mounted fish just in case the fish tanks don't have anything interesting enough, which they always do. But the real focus of the entire building is the touch tank. You know, it looks like a bubble of water right in the middle of the room. It's really attractive to kids, to everybody. It's not just kids. I'm going to say right now, kids love this room, but adults are just as fascinated. And, you know, we'll bring groups in here. We do school groups, birthday parties. Kids will gather around. You can fit 28, I fit 30 plus people standing around the outside. They can all take a look at what we have. We'll pick up the things and put them in our floating baskets and float them around so that everybody gets a chance to touch it if they want to. Some people really don't like doing that.
So I remember when we met, which this building is 2.5 years old. It was probably more like 3.5 years ago. The building didn't exist. We met next door to the building you referenced earlier, which was at something. Was it someone's home?
It was a home. Right? Originally built as a house, yeah.
So we were over there. Definitely needed some work, and all of the exhibits and things that you were doing, particularly the touch tanks, were pretty much donated items, things that you were very crafty in being able to assemble to provide an experience for the kids and adults, like you said. But I remember going in and seeing, you know, small touch tanks, not quite Tupperware containers, but bigger fiberglass containers that you just made work. You did an awesome job. I think it was actually in the basement, right?
Yeah.
And when we were putting this plan together, when you guys were putting this plan together, this tank right here and the way it was to be designed really was the focal point of almost the entire building, wasn't it?
Oh yeah.
Why was that so important?
Well, we're a beach park, and in the old building, when you entered the building, the first thing you saw was a big reptile tank. We couldn't even have our touch tank on the main floor because the structure wouldn't hold the weight. So I really wanted to change the focus. You know, we have 2.5 miles of beachfront. 2.8 million people visit the beach every year. Most of them, they go swimming, they go home, they don't even visit the nature center. But this is what Hammonasset is all about, is a beach. So trying to focus on the animals that people are encountering, if they encounter animals out in the wild, that was the real focus. It was to change it from, you know, all of Connecticut Nature Center, which we do focus on. The other rooms are geared towards inland. But this room really was to remind you that, yes, you're at a beach, and this is what you're going to see. These are the animals that live in Long Island Sound. So most of our tanks are saltwater. You know, we do have fresh water. I have these 2 tanks over here, which are brackish, or the Hammonasset River, which is behind the Nature Center. But yeah, we really wanted people to realize that this is a beach.
Well, you've definitely done a great job of that. So we do see a lot of kids coming in here. Fortunately, we caught some time before you open so that it's quiet. But you do see a lot of kids coming in here, and the entertainment value is really high. But talk to me a little bit about what the conservation experience is like, and how does this really helping our environment? How, by bringing native species into captivity here, what are we doing, and how is that helping educate our kids, our adults, and supporting conservation?
Yes, great question. So the first thing I always think of when people say, how are you going to protect and preserve the environment? The first thing you want to do is educate people. Because people, once they realize the uniqueness and the fascination that you can have with these animals, because the animals in New England are just as fascinating as the Caribbean islands.
Sure.
All right, there's a lot of amazing things that we have right here. Once you start educating people about how amazing our environment is, they're much more likely to want to protect and preserve it and volunteer. I get hundreds of people that want to volunteer just because of how fascinating it is. So this is really the first step, is entertainment. You get somebody really interested, really excited in something, they're going to sit and listen to you explain, okay, why are green crabs so cool? Why do we have a lobster? You know, why are all these things, and in the case of the lobster, why they're in decline? And one thing leads to another, and it really is a chain. Once you start down that road, it's really easy to bring people, oh, this is the next step, and this is why, you know, it's important to address these environmental issues that are coming up all the time. And they can see the animal right here, right in front of them. You sit down and watch and people do this, they'll just watch the animals for a little while, you gain a whole new respect and fascination for them.
And I think that also supports when they're out in nature, that people are more aware and educated, and they're actually helping protect our planet. And they're doing that in ways of, once you come in here and see what is out in our oceans, then when you're out boating or just a day at the beach, you're a little bit more particular about making sure that you pick up your trash, right? And that plastic doesn't get into the ocean. Or maybe you don't even bring plastic to the beach, right?
Oh, yeah.
Or glass or anything like that. So having an experience that you're providing really does protect our ocean environment, and that's so critical. Taking a look at, before we built this building and collaborating on this concept, I want to talk a little bit about the Friends of Hammonasset. So the Friends of Hammonasset are a nonprofit organization that raise money to support Next Point. So while the state was generous in making this building happen, all of the things fish-wise and everything to support the fish tanks were not part of the state's budget, correct? Right. So the Friends of Hammonasset, can you take me back? I think it might go back 10 or 12 years to when this building was just a dream.
Even longer.
And longer than that. So tell me a little bit about that.
So the Friends organization hasn't been around that long. 1999 is when they were incorporated.
Okay.
And shortly after that, they were really created to promote the Nature Center. Our park supervisor really wanted a year-round facility, and that building had no insulation. It was a summer facility only. So that's how it started. And once we were able to winterize that building, then they're like, okay, what do you want now? And then it's like,
here we go.
There was a big dream at the time, almost an impossible dream. We were just talking about adding a room to that building. And it grew, and it grew, and it became more elaborate. And the Friends were raising money. This whole process that we're talking about, and we're talking with the state, and we're trying to figure out how we can make this happen. Because things don't just happen overnight when it comes to the state facilities.
Absolutely.
And the entire time, the Friends were raising this money.
And when you say raising money, if I remember correctly, like selling Christmas trees and wreaths and baked goods at dollars at a time.
Oh yeah.
And this project is not inexpensive. We're talking about 6 figures, right? But they were able, and when I say that, that's just for the fish tank aspects, and some of the animals outside of the actual building construction. But it was really small investments of dollars and activities, like bake sales, right?
Well, yeah, the community had to participate, or this wouldn't have happened.
Now, another thing, when you talk about simplicity and really being able to maintain the aquariums after it's installed, whether you have a staff of 1 or a staff of 100, no matter what you're doing, you want to keep it as simple as possible, right? Yeah. So I appreciate you highlighting that. Do you remember, were you in the meeting before the building was built? We're here, this might have even been in Hartford actually. Architects, the building management company, contractors, and state officials. And they're talking about how to make sure that the building is economical, but done right. And the fish guy comes in. The building's already designed on paper, and pretty much the budgets are put together. And I'm like, hang on guys, you forgot something really important. We need a basement in this. And they're like, well, you can't have a basement. We're on the beach, and the water level and the groundwater level is going to be too high, and that's just not going to happen. And we really vetted that and pushed hard because of the effectiveness that a basement or a lower level would have in operating and keeping things simple here, right? Yeah. So we didn't just stay quiet about that after we heard about the challenges. Yep. We pushed forward, and a basement was had. It was a small additional investment compared to the overall size of the project. And we heard not only from just us being fish guys, but also from the other, the other trades. Once we had a basement, all the trades, mechanic and everything, wanted to take utilization of that space. And it worked out really, really well. There's some special things happening in the basement to eradicate or eliminate any water issues, which is really fascinating. But one thing that, in addition to the effectiveness of operating the aquariums, we're also able to free up a lot of the real estate on the first level, which is prime real estate for the exhibits and the guests here, so that the mechanicals all went into the lower level and didn't take out the prime real estate we have here. When you first heard that a basement was of interest or might happen, what were your thoughts?
I was excited because before the basement came in, which we had asked in the beginning, and they just said it can't happen, all of the HVA, heating and air conditioning, was going to be on the main floor, and every little closet and corner would be taken away because of that. And then the geothermal guy came in, and he said the same thing you did. Why don't you have a basement? We really need a basement. And they didn't really have a place to put the geothermal either. So that was where we were going to do it. And the geothermal was really important to the entire education of the building. I mean, the building is heated through geothermal, and we wanted to teach people that it works, and we could use that as a teaching tool. So the basement was really critical. We should go down and take a look, because it is packed with not just the fish equipment, but everything is down there.
Well,
there's no room.
As exciting as this is, let's definitely go check that out, because what we've done downstairs, just from a life support, and how cool it is to look at that, and the key behind keeping it as simple as possible to own an aquarium or have exhibits like this is key. So let's take a run downstairs and see where all the magic happens.
Definitely.
All right, so Russ, we are down here in the life support area for the aquariums. I'm kind of reflecting right now on being in the old building and some of the maybe pet store grade aquarium equipment that you had to operate your fish tanks, which even over there were pretty sizable. So does the dream continue down here with what you ended up getting?
Oh yeah, I was lucky to have pet store things in that building. They're usually things that were donated, filters and things that were from people who closed their home aquariums, and I used multiple ones on the aquariums to keep everything over there. So yeah, this is an entirely different animal. And it looks a little intimidating. A lot of people come down, they're like, wow, this is a lot of stuff. But when you think about how much water is running through this is pretty simple compared to what I used to have.
So you've got 800 gallons of water that this system is maintaining.
Yep.
Just taking care of just this one filter, how much time a week do you spend?
So this system right here is probably about, for me, 15 minutes just to clean the filter pads. Once in a while we'll clean out the protein skimmer.
So pretty simple for 800 gallons of water to just be taking a few minutes a week to clean filter pads and maybe inspect the protein skimmer. When you had your equipment in the other building, less volume of water, and pet store level aquarium equipment, I bet you were spending more time taking care of that.
Probably 10 to 15 minutes per 35-gallon tank.
Amazing, right?
Yeah.
So again,
entirely different.
Really touching on simplicity in design is so key when you're putting the design of the aquarium together up front. All that planning that happens before you even do an install is really what drives the results of simplicity in aquarium ownership. Very, very cool. Why don't we go take a look at how you make salt water in this building? Because Les, are you bringing it right out of the ocean or what?
No, we weren't able to get permits to do that, so...
So if you can't draw it directly out of the ocean, being on a property that is so close to the water, then you have to make salt water synthetically. So that's what's happening here. Do you want to tell us a little bit about how this works?
Sure. We've got our RO filter over here. Turn it on. Runs through. Fills up the freshwater tank. Then we add salt to this tank. So once this tank's full, we'll just pump water into here. Fill it with salt. When we do a water change, I actually usually put a little more salt in here than I'm going to need up there, so I can add some fresh water just to make sure I can balance everything out. Some of the systems, when we do it, you're using more than 200 gallons.
Sure.
And that way we can stretch the filtration.
Yeah, that's great. Now, it also being part of the design to keep your maintenance as low as possible, are you dragging hoses to fill tanks? How do you fill the tanks?
The tanks fill right up at the overflows, so
Yeah,
that's
so
pretty simple.
if you're doing a water change on this tank, you can just open this valve and water automatically fills.
Yeah.
Russ, thanks so much for your time today. This has been really a lot of fun. The project was a lot of fun, and as you know, we're always here to help you with anything that you need moving forward.
Absolutely.
Thank you.